The crystal wine glass exploded against the marble floor, shards scattering like tiny stars over the kitchen's pristine surface. Nathan stood across from me, divorce papers in hand, with that smug grin I come to loathe over the last 15 years. "Let's not turn this into a spectacle, Eleanor," he said, his voice oozing with the same condescension that had become his trademark. "We both saw this coming. I found someone who actually understands me, someone who deserves what I've built." I stared down at the fractured glass. So perfect a metaphor for our marriage, once gleaming, now irreparably shattered. But unlike the glass, I wasn't fragile. Not anymore. "My name is Eleanor Blake," I thought, my resolve solidifying. "And at 43, I'm about to show my soon-to-be ex-husband just how badly he's underestimated me. For 15 years, I'd worn the mask of the devoted corporate wife. I'd hosted dinner parties, played the perfect partner at black tie events, and smiled through gritted teeth while Nathan flaunted his success. What he didn't know was that I'd been playing a much longer, smarter game. "Someone who deserves you," I echoed, my voice calm despite the rage simmering beneath the surface. "You mean Zoe, your 26-year-old assistant?" His eyes flickered briefly with guilt but quickly hardened. "Zoe understands ambition," he replied. "Unlike you, she isn't content to sit around spending my money." I nearly laughed out loud at the absurdity of his delusions. Nathan had always seen what he wanted to see, a trophy wife whose purpose began and ended with making him look good. He'd never stopped to notice the sharp mind behind the polite smiles or the empire I was quietly building beneath his nose. "The prenup is ironclad," he continued, sliding the documents across the counter. "You'll walk away with what we agreed upon years ago. I'm being generous, Eleanor. The car, some jewelry, maybe a small allowance, more than fair." I picked up the papers, scanning the terms he was so confident would leave me destitute. Just as I expected, he'd lined everything up in his favor: the house, the company shares, the vacation properties. All of it. According to this agreement, I was meant to walk away with barely enough to scrape by. "And where exactly am I supposed to go?" I asked, keeping my tone carefully neutral. "Not my problem," Nathan shrugged, checking his Patek Philippe watch. "You've got 2 weeks to figure it out. Zoe and I will be moving in after that." His arrogance was almost admirable. Almost. As he turned to leave, I watched his Italian leather shoes tread over the shattered glass, as if it, and I, were beneath him. Little did Nathan know I didn't eat his house, or his money, or his pity. Because while he had spent the last 15 years amassing wealth and status, I had been doing the same, only smarter. Every gala, every boardroom cocktail hour, every whispered conversation at the country club had been an opportunity. He'd seen a pretty face sipping champagne. I'd seen an investor, a partner, a connection. And now it was time to cash in. That night, I logged into an account Nathan didn't know existed. The numbers staring back at me brought a small, satisfied smile to my lips. $62 million, carefully cultivated through years of investments, silent partnerships, and strategic plays. I'd spent over a decade preparing for this moment, and now the board was set. I called my best friend, Riley, the only person who knew the truth. "He finally did it," I said when she picked up. Riley's laugh came through the phone like a spark. "And how does King Nathan think this is going to play out?" "Exactly the way I wanted him to," I replied, swirling the whiskey Nathan always said I didn't have the palate to appreciate. "He thinks he's leaving me with nothing, but I'm about to leave him with a lot less." The next morning, I was in the kitchen, perfectly dressed in a tailored Alexander McQueen suit and Jimmy Choo heels, when Nathan strutted in, phone in hand. "I scheduled a showing for the house this afternoon," he announced. "Try to make yourself scarce." I took a deliberate sip of my coffee, hiding my amusement. "Of course, Nathan. I wouldn't want to ruin your plans." His eyes narrowed, suspicious. "What's your angle, Eleanor?" "Angle?" I smiled sweetly. "I'm just being reasonable." He didn't believe me, of course. But that was the beauty of it. Nathan's arrogance was his greatest weakness, and by the time he realized the truth, it would be far too late. Later that afternoon, while Nathan was busy parading potential buyers through our home, I arrived at the gleaming office tower that housed the headquarters of Aurora Holdings, my company. The receptionist greeted me warmly. "Good afternoon, Ms. Blake. The board is ready for you." Aurora Holdings had been my passion project, born out of a need to build something that was mine and mine alone. What Nathan didn't know was that Aurora was no small enterprise. It was a rising star in the tech world, poised to overtake his company as the market leader. As I walked into the boardroom and took my seat at the head of the table, I felt a surge of pride. This was what I'd spent 15 years building, and now it was time to put the final pieces into play. The next morning, Nathan barged into my office, his face flushed with anger. "What the hell did you do, Eleanor?" he demanded, slamming a folder onto my desk. I raised an eyebrow. "Good morning to you too. The bank is refusing to sell the house," he shouted. "They're saying there's a lion on the property, one I didn't authorize." "Ah," I said, leaning back in my chair. Well, Nathan, do you remember those papers you signed last year? The ones you didn't bother reading because they were boring legal stuff. Turns out, you transferred partial ownership of the house to Aurora Holdings." He paled. "You tricked me. You underestimated me," I corrected. "And now? Aurora Holdings owns 50% of this house. You can't sell without my approval." Nathan sank into the chair opposite me, his bravado crumbling. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Planning?" I said, smiling. "Nathan, I've been building. While you were busy with your affairs, I was building something real. And now? Aurora is your biggest competitor." I turned my laptop to face him, showing him the sleek website of the company he'd so arrogantly ignored. "You thought you were leaving me with nothing, Nathan," I said, standing up and heading for the door. "But the truth is I've already won." He paced the room, raking his hands through his hair. "The divorce settlement." "I'll sign it," I interrupted coolly. "You can keep your company, your accounts, and everything else you think defines you. But the house? That stays in limbo until we renegotiate on my terms." His voice cracked as he asked, "What do you want?" I rose from my chair, straightening the hem of my skirt. "I want you to finally understand who you're dealing with. I'm not the trophy wife you can discard when you're bored. I'm the woman who built an empire in the shadows while you basked in the spotlight." My phone buzzed, a notification flashing across the screen. I glanced at it, a faint smile playing on my lips. "And speaking of empires," I added, "you might want to check your company's stock price." Thomas fumbled for his phone, his face paling as he scrolled through the news. Chen International had just announced a strategic acquisition, one that cost him his biggest client. "This is personal," he hissed, looking up at me, his arrogance giving way to desperation. "No, Thomas," I said with a calmness that cut sharper than any shout. "This is business. Something you thought I'd never understand." He stormed out of the office, but I remained unshaken. This was merely the prelude. I picked up my phone and dialed Grace. "How did it go?" she asked. "Exactly as expected," I replied, watching from the window as his Ferrari screeched out of the driveway. "Is everything ready for tomorrow?" "The press release is prepped and the board is standing by. Are you sure you want to do this?" "Absolutely," I said, my gaze fixed on the city skyline. "It's time the world knew who Victoria Chen really is." The next day, the business world awoke to two earth-shattering announcements. First, Chen International unveiled its elusive CEO. Me. The mysterious founder who had reshaped the industry was none other than Thomas's soon-to-be ex-wife. Second, my company announced a hostile takeover of Palmer Industries. The man who had so confidently believed he was leaving me with nothing was about to watch everything he held dear slip through his fingers. As the news spread, my phone buzzed incessantly with messages. The same socialites who once dismissed me were clamoring for my attention. I ignored them all, my focus unwavering. A knock at my office door pulled me from the buzz of the media frenzy. It was Jessica, Thomas's young girlfriend, her confidence noticeably diminished. "Victoria," she began hesitantly, her voice trembling. "Can we talk?" "Of course," I said, gesturing for her to sit. "Let me guess. This is about Thomas." She nodded, twisting her hands in her lap. "He's not who I thought he was," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "No," I said evenly, "he rarely is." She swallowed hard. "He's losing everything, isn't he?" I leaned forward, studying her. "Tell me, Jessica, in the time you've been with him, how many of your ideas did he steal and pass off as his own?" Her silence confirmed what I already knew. "He promised you the world, didn't he? Made you feel special. Told you that you, unlike his wife, really understood him." She nodded, her composure crumbling. "I was so stupid." "No," I said gently. You were exactly where he wanted you to be. The question now is, where do you want to be? She looked up, startled. What do you mean? I slid my business card across the desk. Chen International values talent, Jessica. People who deserve credit for their ideas. Think about it. The morning of the emergency board meeting, I sat in my home office as the sun rose over the city. My phone buzzed with a message from Thomas. We need to talk. Now. I ignored it, instead reviewing the latest financial reports. Ken International stock had surged another 15%, while Palmer Industries was in freefall. The doorbell rang. Of course, it was Thomas, his normally pristine appearance replaced by a disheveled suit and desperation in his eyes. You have to stop this, he said, barging in uninvited. The board meeting is in 2 hours. They're voting on your offer. Why would I stop? I asked, my voice calm as I walked to the kitchen to pour myself a coffee. Because this is insane, he exploded. You're trying to destroy me out of spite. Spite? I laughed softly, setting down my cup. No, Thomas, this isn't spite. This is business. Something you never believed I could understand. His shoulders sagged. I'll give you the house. Full ownership. Just call off the takeover. I shook my head, a faint smile on my lips. You still don't get it, do you? This was never about the house. It's about showing you exactly who I've been all these years. I pulled out my phone and showed him the latest valuation of Chen International. His face drained of color. My company is worth 3 times yours now, I said evenly. And that's not because of luck or inheritance or stepping on others to get ahead. It's because I built something real while you built an image. His voice faltered. How long have you been planning this? Planning? I repeated. No, Thomas. I've been working. Every time you dismissed me, I was making connections. Every time you assumed I was out shopping or lunching, I was building an empire. While you were busy with Jessica, I was busy creating something far more lasting. The board meeting went exactly as expected. One by one, Thomas's board members voted in favor of the takeover. When the final vote was tallied, Grace pressed send on the press release. Chen International completes acquisition of Palmer Industries. Victoria Chen to serve as CEO of merged companies. As the world reeled, I ignored the flood of messages and focused on the email I was drafting to our employees. Change can be daunting, I wrote, but it also brings opportunity. In this new chapter, every voice will be heard and every idea valued. Our success will be built on merit, not privilege. That evening, as the last traces of daylight faded, Grace joined me in my office with a glass of champagne. To the new CEO, she toasted. To new beginnings, I replied. She studied me for a moment. You could have told him years ago, about the company, the money, everything. Why didn't you? I smiled. Because sometimes the best revenge is letting people underestimate you until the perfect moment to prove them wrong. The next morning, I received a letter from Jessica. I'd love the chance to present my ideas, she wrote, not as someone's girlfriend, but as a professional with something to offer. I smiled, texting Grace. Schedule a meeting with Jessica. Let's see what she's capable of. As I settled into my desk, a final message from Thomas appeared on my phone. I'm sorry, I never saw you, not really. I didn't respond. Some lessons come too late, and some apologies don't mean answers. Instead, I turned my focus to the next acquisition. After all, I had an empire to run.